The world today is standing at a dangerous crossroads. Tensions that have been building for years are now surfacing in ways that feel far more direct, far more personal, and far more explosive. When Iran sends a message to the United States and Israel that can be summarized in three chilling words, "Welcome to hell," it is not just a threat. It is a declaration of intent, a warning shaped by decades of hostility, and a signal that the rules of engagement may be changing. This is not happening in isolation. The Middle East has long been a region where history, ideology, religion, and power collide. But what makes this moment different is the convergence of multiple crises at the same time: unresolved wars, nuclear fears, domestic unrest, proxy conflicts, and a global system already strained by economic uncertainty and geopolitical rivalry. Iran's words, sharp and unapologetic, are landing in a world that is already on edge. For Iran, this warning is rooted in a perception of existential threat. Tehran sees itself surrounded by enemies, sanctioned by the West, targeted by intelligence operations, and constantly under the shadow of potential military strikes. From Iran's perspective, the United States represents decades of interference, broken agreements, and economic warfare. Israel, meanwhile, is viewed as a direct and immediate military adversary, one that has openly declared it will not allow Iran to achieve nuclear capability. The phrase "welcome to hell" reflects more than anger. It reflects a strategy of deterrence through fear. Iran is signaling that any attack will not be limited, surgical, or easily controlled. Instead, it promises a response that would engulf the region in chaos. Iranian leaders want Washington and Tel Aviv to understand that escalation will come at an unbearable cost. The United States, on the other hand, sees Iran as a destabilizing force across the Middle East. American officials accuse Tehran of funding and arming militias, undermining regional governments, threatening shipping lanes, and pushing toward nuclear weapons capability under the cover of civilian energy programs. For Washington, Iran is not merely a regional actor, but a challenger to the existing global order. Israel's position is even more direct. For decades, Israeli leaders have argued that Iran's ideology and military ambitions pose a direct threat to Israel's survival. Statements from Iranian officials calling for the end of the Israeli state have been taken as proof that this threat is not theoretical. As a result, Israel has repeatedly signaled its willingness to act alone if necessary, launching covert operations, cyber attacks, and airstrikes aimed at slowing Iran's military and nuclear progress. Recent months have pushed these tensions closer to open confrontation. Missile exchanges, airstrikes, and retaliatory operations have moved from the shadows into the open. Each side insists it does not want full-scale war, yet each continues to prepare for exactly that scenario. Military assets have been repositioned, alliances tested, and red lines drawn, often ambiguously, sometimes deliberately. Inside Iran, external pressure intersects with internal strain. Economic sanctions have crippled large parts of the Iranian economy. Inflation, unemployment, and currency devaluation have hit ordinary citizens hard. Protests have erupted periodically, challenging the government and exposing deep social frustration. In moments like these, confronting an external enemy can serve as a unifying force, redirecting public anger outward rather than inward. For Iranian leadership, standing firm against the United States and Israel reinforces legitimacy among hardliners and signals strength to allies across the region. Groups aligned with Iran, from Lebanon to Yemen, watch closely. They interpret Tehran's words as reassurance that Iran will not retreat, that it remains committed to resisting American and Israeli influence wherever it appears. But rhetoric has consequences. Every threat raises expectations. Every warning limits room for compromise. When leaders speak in absolutes, diplomacy becomes harder, not easier. The danger lies not only in deliberate decisions, but in miscalculation. A single strike misread as a declaration of war. A defensive move interpreted as preparation for attack. A proxy action that triggers direct retaliation. The global community understands these risks all too well. Energy markets react nervously to every headline. Shipping companies monitor key waterways with growing concern. Governments issue cautious statements calling for restraint, while quietly preparing contingency plans. No one wants another major war in the Middle East, yet few believe the situation can simply return to normal. What makes this moment especially volatile is the breakdown of trust. Agreements that once served as guardrails have weakened or collapsed entirely. Channels of communication are limited. Each side assumes the worst intentions of the other. In such an environment, even symbolic gestures can trigger real-world consequences. Iran's warning to America and Israel is also a message to the wider world. It is a declaration that Iran refuses to be intimidated, isolated, or coerced into submission. Tehran wants to project resilience, to show that pressure only hardens its resolve. Whether this strategy succeeds or backfires remains uncertain. From Washington's perspective, backing down could signal weakness, not just to Iran but to allies and adversaries worldwide. American leaders must balance deterrence with restraint, knowing that excessive force could ignite a conflict far larger than intended. The presence of U.S. military assets in the region is meant to prevent war, yet their very presence increases the risk of confrontation. Israel faces its own dilemma. Acting too aggressively could provoke exactly the regional war it seeks to avoid. Acting too cautiously could allow Iran to strengthen its position. Israeli decision makers operate under intense pressure, aware that time may not be on their side. As words harden and positions solidify, the space for diplomacy narrows. Yet history shows that even the most dangerous standoffs can sometimes be diffused. The question is whether there is still enough political will, patience, and imagination to pursue de-escalation before events spiral out of control. The phrase "welcome to hell" resonates because it captures the fear underlying this moment. Fear of war, fear of loss, fear of consequences that cannot be undone once unleashed. It is a reminder that modern conflict does not stay contained. It spreads across borders, markets, and societies. Ordinary people, far from the halls of power, will bear the greatest cost if diplomacy fails. Civilians caught in the crossfire, economies disrupted, futures put on hold. These realities often fade behind bold statements and military calculations, but they remain the human core of every geopolitical crisis. For now, the world watches and waits. Analysts debate intentions. Diplomats search for openings. Militaries remain on alert. Each day, without escalation, feels like a fragile victory, yet the underlying tensions remain unresolved. Iran's message has been delivered. America and Israel have heard it. What matters now is not who speaks the loudest, but who chooses their next move most carefully. Because in a region already scarred by conflict, another misstep could turn a warning into a reality and push the world closer to a hell no one truly wants to enter.